Yeah, I feel really fortunate that through this show, I've got to meet and connect with people who like share the same interest I have. So I'm really happy that we're having this conversation today. Could
Thank
you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Thank you. My name is Isabella Grable. I'm working as the head of HR at a tech for good company called Lightful, based in London, normally in Shoreditch. At the moment, obviously working from home since a few months for almost all of us. And I came to the UK almost 5 years ago now. And originally, I'm born and grew up in Germany. That's me.
So thank you for sharing that. So that's been your part of your journey geographically. Could you share your journey in the context of culture? So what's led you to working and being so interested in company culture?
Yeah, of course. It is actually quite funny. So I always thought from my interest and my strength that I would one day be a therapist, actually, especially for relationships. And that was always like something in my mind, what I had as a goal. The journey to become a therapist in Germany is quite long. So I decided against it because I didn't want to end up too long at university as well. But another thing what I've always was like interested in was like when I go back to my very, very first job when I was like 16 years old and like just wanted to have a job to have a bit more pocket money. I realized that the HR office and people who work in the HR office are completely distanced often from the entire part of the employees. Like they do the paperwork, they let you know when you get your salary paid, and they want to have your bank details, and like they want to have your signature. But I've found out it was very distant, and I felt like, oh, this is interesting. Those like gray people in HR, they are so important, but actually they are not really there. And I just was wondering if I could change this as an individual, at least. I mean, I don't think I can change the entire HR work, and I don't think for every company. But I thought if I work as an HR professional after studying it, I might make a big difference to loads of different people's work experience. And in the UK, then when I started working for Lightful, it was quite interesting because I started as their first HR hire in this time, very small company in this time, only when I started like 18, 20 people. And I started to working there as their HR hire. And after a while, somebody left the company. This person resigned, had a new opportunity, was no big drama. But this person told me in the exit interview that he really liked working with me. And he was like, actually, Isabella, sometimes I had the feeling you're a bit the human in human resources. And that was actually one of my biggest compliments with what I ever got, I think, so far. What really touched me and what I felt reminded on my journey when I thought about my career and what I want to do, because I was thinking, actually, maybe I do the difference now for people in their working experience. And I guess that is where everything started, kind of my passion for it. Yeah.
So you mentioned human resources. I find there's increasing conversation about how the term is becoming outdated or is already outdated for some people. And there's been shifts, I guess, for some companies for many years through to the people team, people and culture. Some are focusing more on employee experience. Do you have a view on how you would shape, or like, yeah, what would the focus of the function be in your view?
It's funny that you say it, because I thought exactly about my introduction and when I say HR, and I thought maybe Matt comments on it, because you're absolutely right. Loads of companies and especially young startups starting to use more the people or talent a definition, or like the word for it instead of HR. And I think in the end of the day, you work with people. It doesn't matter which title you have or which title a company chooses. I'm a typical generalist, what means I'm doing like every level of HR, kind of. The biggest purpose of my role is, I think, to make people successful but also happy, I guess, at their workplace, on different levels. And it doesn't mean that you can please everybody in the same way, or that that you will never have any people leaving. And I don't think it is the bad thing when somebody resigns as well, because they have a different opportunity, or something happened in their personal life, or they want to travel around the world. So yeah, but I think in general, yeah, I want to make sure that people have a job where they can use their strength and where they can, I guess, perform and develop as well. So that was always kind of my focus, I think, as well.
Yeah, I like this. I like the sound of that focus. So if we now look a bit more specific, could you share some examples of work you've done that's influenced culture? As we know, everyone's learning as we go along. So maybe also some of the lessons you've learned.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess especially in the last months, there were so many lessons to learn, because the world obviously completely turned around, and it was quite messy, I guess, for so many people and so many companies as well. I would say, so the year started for me, and obviously you have a plan for the year, and you have like focus points, and you have like an HR strategy, what you have in your mind or even on paper, and best practice, and you think it through already. And obviously with Corona and the consequence of working from home, you need to completely rethink your strategy. But actually, as an HR person, I guess it is exactly what you do so many times, that you rethink, adjust, go through again, learning by doing. And I guess that is exactly what happened this year as well. So interestingly for us, I guess, we changed everything to working from home, what meant communication internally was a complete different thing. Like I wouldn't say that we were particular bad in our comms in the last years, but we might also haven't been amazing. And with changing to working from home, you realize what comms actually means, and how important it is for people to be updated and to be part of this journey as well, especially when it's about so important things like working from home. This is your new setup. What are we doing to support you? How can we individual support, but how can we also make sure that like the team spirit is still there? So I guess that was one bigger challenge, the communication. And my biggest learning is, I guess, saying it once is almost not saying it at all. And I always think back to actually at university when people or like professors said to me, yeah, human behavior, you need to say it 7 times if you want that they change. And I actually have often the feeling it's the same in a company when you have those big meetings, and then like you update them, and actually when you only say it once, you don't do your job right, I think. And I think also what I learned in the last months, how important those personal check-ins are. And obviously normally I would check in quickly with a coffee, or like going to a desk and saying, oh, how are you? Or somebody brings the dog into the office and you go down to the dog and you start chatting to this person. And obviously you need to find a way, I guess, in those times to do exactly the same thing, but virtual. What was a challenge, and it is maybe sometimes a bit more work, but it's definitely worth it, I would say. Yeah.
How do you do the personal check-ins? Do you like plan a schedule for a month and make sure you've checked in with certain people? Like, how do you do it in practice?
Very good point. So actually, I'm very fortunate that I have a strong leadership team who are doing those check-ins with me together. So we actually have a schedule every month, and every leadership team member is checking in with individuals. And I'm doing those as well. I might do a few more in general because it is one of my focus anyway. But yeah, sometimes you need to plan it a bit more than you would do again in the office. And I think it is also good to, like, again, it's a bit around comms as well, to make sure that the leadership team is like aligned with things as well. What are we saying? What are our newest updates? What is important when we talk about benefits? Which benefits could be really important at the moment for people? Yeah, also I think those situations where you have one-to-ones are so powerful because people feel often way more comfortable to ask a question. We have quite often the situation, and I think my team knows exactly when they listen today, they know exactly what I mean, where we have like all staff meetings and we ask, are there any questions? And yeah, and just nobody feels that comfortable, especially over Zoom, to say, oh, actually I have a question. And I think that is something, it's quite normal. But in those one-to-ones check-ins, you often get really good questions. And when people think, and that's what the leadership team needs to do as well, like thinking about this question and think, oh, actually, this could be a question, what is interesting for everybody in the company. Then you have this dialogue ongoing, and you can really work with it as well.
You mentioning personal check-ins has made me realize that I could do that more, because there was a time last week when I was starting to write an email, starting to write someone's address in the to box, and it started predicting people, and the people that it was predicting, I was like, oh my god, like I haven't thought of you. And previously I would have seen them like in person or in person. But now, having said that, I think now if I write to people, they'll be like, oh, was I one of the people you never thought of? But no, as you say, it's like you've got to just put more effort in to make some of the things happen that would have happened naturally before.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything bad about it to maybe not think actively about somebody, and then the name pops up and you think, oh, actually that would be good maybe to check in. I mean, as an HR person, I guess it is important to have a bit more structure around it, but I think with my friends, it happens to me as well. It is quite normal. Even my parents maybe could complain at a moment that I haven't called this weekend.
Hello to your parents.
Yeah, hello.
Shout out. Okay, so you mentioned that some of the lessons you've learned have been from recently with the response to the pandemic. One of the things we ask on this show is to understand, well, how, in addition to the company, how have we been looking after ourselves as individuals, so that we can learn from each other. So could you share some of the ways you've been looking after your own well-being?
Yeah, definitely. I actually have a few things, I guess. What I maybe relearned almost. Obviously, I guess what we all relearned is being more on your own again, and being faced with a situation that you can't have a pint with somebody very quickly and get some almost entertainment in. The positive side, what I learned from this situation is that I feel less social pressure, because sometimes it can be also quite overwhelming, like being like, it's never nice to be the person who says no to a pint. So you often maybe force yourself into the next pub, what can be also bad for your mental well-being. But in general, what I do and what I relearned to do is actually to listen way more to myself and maybe even care a bit more about myself. So there are two sides of it. One side is to actually listen to myself, and the other side is to actually do something and to change something if I heard that it's not good for me. So for example, if I think about I'm in love with running. Everybody knows it who knows me. I listen often to myself and think, oh yeah, I would need to run. And then I look into my calendar and I think, yeah, but today is not a good day. Then I think, no, actually you can change this. You just might end up with like working between 6 and 7, but we had a good run between 3 and 4, because then obviously in the winter months it's still bright. So I think it is this like being strict to yourself as well, and not just saying, oh, I can't do this because of. No, you can change those things, and being aware of those. And I guess in general the best tip what I have is being outside, having fresh air, having sunlight if it's possible, and then I guess to refresh your mind as well, trying out new things. I did quite a bit. I have never been a good chef in the kitchen. I'm still not really great, but at least I learned a bit during COVID. What is nice to have a bit more time for those things as well. Reading is one of them. I was never a particular good and fast reader, but it's nice to pick it up again and to have time for it. Listening to podcasts, getting your steps in is one of my favorite actually hobby what I can do. And I'm playing Scrabble, the first time in my life in a different language, because I'm playing it in English, what made me very happy. And I guess for loads of people, they could use the time now to learn another language, because it's such an eye opener and door opener, I guess, as well, from my own experience.
Wow, I'm in admiration at the thing, like the breadth of different things you've been doing.
I try.
No wonder you're smiling. So now we close on our traditional question of, for the people watching who are working to influence their company's culture, conscious that every company is different, what advice would you offer them?
I think my first advice is to be patient. But again, like, I guess, doing something, like trying to change something means you have to be a leader on changing something. You have to be a good example. What also means you have to listen to other people, and you have to stay open. Don't think you know better, even with like 20 years of experience. Don't assume you know best, because like you say, every company is different. Every human being is different. So I guess listening and leadership was actually one of our value pair at Lightful, and my favorite, actually, I would almost say. And yeah, keeping your mind open for ideas and for trying out, and then also being open for failure, and just like, yeah, just fail and learn and doing it again. And stay human as well, I guess, especially as an HR person. Don't try to be this gray person who thinks, I know everything better, I studied this. No, in the end of the day, culture is what people make out of it, and what your company and your team makes out of it, not what you think is the best thing to do.
I really like the way you articulated that.
Thank you.
With that, I'd like to thank you so much for being part of this show. I feel like in this pretty short time, we've covered a lot, and you've been really generous with what you shared. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, so much. It was lovely to speak. It was amazing. Thank you.